Hey everybody, welcome back to Sounds Like a Drum, Cadence Independent Media production, talking about cymbals today, talking about the subject we've been hitting on the main show, which is placebos. What you see is what you get, listening with your eyes, all of that. We saved this for the cymbal series specifically because generally we don't talk about cymbals on the main show, but this for me is where I had the most overarching placebo-esque experience with drum gear, and it's cymbals, because the thing about cymbals versus a drum is that unless you're a cymbal smith, there's really not a lot of tuning or changing or adjusting you can do. You can put tape on it maybe, but other than that, like, you hit it and it makes the sound that it's going to make. What this means for us as players is that we start to get a sense that we can look at a cymbal in a vacuum and have some idea of how it's going to sound, but especially within the last couple of decades, and even a little earlier than that, things have started to stray away from the idea that the look of the cymbal can tell us anything about how it's going to behave. Even something as simple as knowing the diameter of a cymbal feels like it should tell us something intrinsic about how that instrument is going to act, but because there are so many factors, both visible and totally invisible, going into the behavior of a piece of metal that we're striking with a stick, we can know very little about that, no matter what it says on paper, until we've actually played it with our own sticks, in our own space, and really gotten a sense of what it's going to do. This cymbal right here is a great example of exactly what we're talking about. Zildjian K-Custom Special Dry Ride. 21 inches, nice medium thin weight, but it has one overarching visual aspect that's the first thing we notice. The top looks like the surface of the moon. Big heavy hammer marks, barely lathed if at all. It looks like it's skimmed a little bit, but we can say the top is essentially not lathed. However, on the bottom, it's lathed a lot. It's pin lathed from the edge all the way to the center. So if you look at the bottom, you see a normal cymbal. You look at the top, you see something that visually is implying dryness, darkness, smokiness, all of these wonderful adjectives that maybe sort of mean something. But beyond all that, what do we actually know without playing it? Well, nothing. Because first off, I have owned one of these cymbals in the past, same make, model, similar year even, sounded completely different, particularly in the dryness and articulation aspect. This one is significantly drier than the one that I had, to the point where I put tape on mine to try to get it to sound like this. And I also own a ride cymbal right now that structurally is the same. Unlathed on the top, lathed on the bottom, heavily hammered, medium thin, similar diameter. Unrecognizable sound compared to the behavior of this cymbal. So if we watch someone play, if we look at a cymbal in a picture, or even if we hear it necessarily, I don't know, on a record, something like that, it doesn't mean that we actually know what it's going to do. And we definitely can't see one of them, or even hear one of them, or play one of them, and know that if we buy one of the same make, model, and size, that it's going to sound the same. When we think about any part of the drum set, today we're talking about cymbals, as soon as you deviate from what is considered the norm, you move into this space of it being a rarefied, special, unique, maybe more important or more valuable thing that's going to end up with a premium on the price because it is deviating from the norm, and whoever's making it or selling it to us is telling us that it's special, it's different, it's better, it's more expensive, and we need it for some reason. If we're not experiencing a deficiency in the sounds that we already own, obviously we don't need to buy more gear. But on the other hand, if you're looking for a drier ride cymbal, that's totally okay. That doesn't mean that something that looks like it's going to be dry or looks like another cymbal you saw that had very dry sound is going to give you that same exact thing. In the beginning, cymbals essentially all looked the same. And we're going back to like the 30s. Round, lathed, bell in the middle, sounds like a cymbal. That went all the way into the 70s, basically, when Zildjian started experimenting at the end of the 70s and into the 80s with dry cymbals and unlathed cymbals. From this, we get the K Custom Ride, we get the K Custom Dry Ride, we get a lot of other sorts of looking cymbals. And at this time, the things they were doing to those cymbals were for the sake of making them sound different. But somewhere along the way, and I blame the internet for some of this, surely MTV too, but especially the internet, this got flipped over to where making a cymbal look different implied to the buyer that it was going to sound different and that it should also cost more money. This includes patina finishes. This includes crazy looking lathing that doesn't really affect the sound that much. It can also include all sorts of really wild looking finishes like this has on the top and some other brands also utilize that are for setting it apart and meant to imply a certain kind of auditory behavior where the thing you're seeing that makes it different is not the thing that's giving it that difference in sound. And all of a sudden now we're buying a look because we think the look makes the sound. But it's the other way around. The cymbal sounds how it sounds. And the people making it need to separate that from the rest of their products, so they go after how can we make this look different. Something we've touched on in the past that really bears repeating here is the idea that an old cymbal is better, a dirty cymbal is better, you shouldn't clean old cymbals if you want the old sound. All sorts of different perspectives about this. Now, taking the old A copy that we use in like 95% of our videos, it's a copy of a cymbal from the 40s. No patina, no dirt, no grime, no rust, no corrosion, none of that. It also hasn't been played aggressively for 80 years, so everything about it is new. And put it on a stand, play it. It sounds like those cymbals sounded when they were new in the 40s, which ironically is the sound that's on records that we love from back then. So the idea that we need dirty cymbals from the 40s or the 50s to sound like the records from the 40s and the 50s is nonsense anyhow, because those guys were playing new cymbals and breaking them all the time and getting new ones. So we have no idea what they were doing. But what we can say for sure is that dirt and grime do not an authentic cymbal sound make. Do whatever you want. Clean your old cymbal if you want to. Don't clean your new cymbal if you don't want to. It doesn't matter. But the bottom line is, if it sounds how you want it to sound, leave it alone. And if it doesn't, experiment. Having said that, if you're a collector and you're buying and selling cymbals and you want them to retain a certain level of collectability, there is a facet to the collector's market that says, don't take all of that off because it's part of the age. That's part of the patina of age that you can't put back on. So that's worth thinking about if you know you're going to be wheeling and dealing these things. But if you're a player, forget it. A quick word about cymbals that are coming out from every Turkish manufacturer right now, and some domestic ones too, that have some kind of blue or gray or a finish on them that makes them look like they have a patina, makes them look old, or gives them this kind of energy. I have personally taken that finish off of cymbals like that, and they sound exactly the same without it. So if you think that that blue tint on your cymbals has anything to do with the sound of them, it doesn't. That doesn't mean it doesn't look cool. It totally looks cool, but it's absolutely a placebo effect in the truest sense of the expression. It is making you feel a thing that is not actually doing the job that the drug is doing. Something we've been talking about here a fair amount because it comes up in chats, it comes up in forums, is this idea that companies are ripping off ideas from other companies because you see a cymbal that looks like a cymbal from another company. Can we collectively drop this and instead hit a thing and be happy or not happy about how it sounds? Because the sound and the look, just to sum up, don't have a whole lot to do with each other. If companies want to emulate the visual appearance of a product from one company to the next, that's their prerogative. Leave them alone. Let them do what they want. If you hit a cymbal and you like it, hooray. If you hit it and you don't, that's fine too. But this idea that there is some kind of proprietary idea, whether it's a blue tint on there or not lathing the top or whatever it is, that some company owns that and no one else can ever do it ever again, it's ridiculous. The other side of placebo effect in the traditional sense of the definition is that something that is not the drug that you think you're taking can still give you a benefit. Like, that's the idea behind placebos in testing, is like, are people benefiting when they're just taking the sugar pill and not taking the real drug? So if I play this cymbal and it inspires me not just for how it sounds, but also for how it looks, that's a positive effect on me as a player. And that means that if I have a choice between a cymbal that sounds exactly like this and looks different, and one that sounds like this and looks like this, and I choose this one because it makes me feel a certain kind of way when I play it because I'm looking at it, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. If you like the look of unlathed cymbals, or you prefer the look of dirty cymbals because it makes you feel a certain kind of way and inspires you, that's actually a positive placebo effect that you can use to your advantage. And that also means that you can explore that for yourself and figure out why that's inspiring you. You know, a cymbal with a chunk missing out of it might make you feel a certain kind of way, or giant hi-hats might make you feel a certain kind of way. That's a source of inspiration, and it's not to be discounted. What we're really addressing here is the idea that you are unwittingly getting sucked into a way of thinking about instruments that you might be shopping for or buying, or just judging objectively, that isn't really based in any kind of constructive reality, and instead is that thing we keep talking about of listening with our eyes. This leads us to something that we need to be super aware of, which is if there are two identical sounding cymbals, one of them looks more visually striking and different, and then they slap a premium price on that, and that leads us to pay extra money for the look, that's when we're starting to get into a little bit of a snake oil experience here, where it's no longer about the sound and about the expression, and it's about them making money off of us because they're showing us something that we've never seen before, even though it sounds the same. If you've been with us for any length of time and watched any number of our episodes, you may be well aware that we are a function over form channel here. Form is a beautiful thing, but we are in the business of talking about tools for making music. If the end game is not the instruments being in front of us and rather is creativity and creating art with them, then function is pretty important, and form is tertiary to that. Form can be fun and visual and inspiring and all of that, but we really care about whether or not these tools are giving us what we need to make the art, which is the ultimate end game here. And that means that if anything is getting in the way, and particularly if there is a premium price tacked onto that, we really need to watch out for that so that we don't end up getting drawn into a maze of logic with a bunch of gear that we don't need, that we paid twice as much for than we needed to.